family mode.
Hello, and welcome to today's webinar in the Partnering for Success series. And thank you for joining us today. As you know, we are constantly striving to seek ways to strengthen our relationships with you, our Jabra partner community, to help you achieve your objectives and targets. So we've identified communication as key to this. So we are pleased to have you joining us today for this EMEA-wide webinar. So the focus of today's webinar will be to deliver you with information and tools to equip you to understand, position, and sell Jabra in the unified communications space, specifically around Microsoft Lync. As we all know, as companies migrate to unified communications, there is an immediate opportunity to deploy headsets. Market indications show that organizations are increasingly embracing the conferencing, collaboration, and the enhanced productivity that UC offers. So today we're here to equip you with the information necessary to make sure that your customers know that headsets make a significant difference in how your communications will work for them. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to today's panelists. First, we have Andrew Doyle, and he is the Managing Director of UK and Ireland. Most of you are familiar with him. He has been working for Jabra for the last 7 years in various roles, both in the mobile and CCNO sector of Jabra, but most recently has been promoted to Managing Director UK and Ireland for the CCNO business. Myself, who most of you are familiar with, at least here in the UK, I'm Laurie Raposo, and I'm the Channel Marketing Manager for the UK market. I look after the UK channel partners and the strategic alliance partners, and I've worked for Jabra since October of last year, and I come from a strong IT and channel marketing background. Finally, and most importantly, is our guest panelist today, Steve Tassel from Microsoft. Steve has worked in the field of end-user computing for the last decade, recently focusing on social computing and the impact of consumerization of IT. And he currently manages the unified communications business for Microsoft here in the UK, which involves working with Microsoft's partners responsible for selling UC-related products and services. So I'd like to quickly take you through the agenda for today and then some general housekeeping items for the webinar. First, and most importantly, Andrew Doyle is going to take you through the UC market opportunity and then give you some background on the Microsoft and Jabra relationship and let you know why customers are choosing Jabra to fulfill their device requirements in the unified communication space. Then we will hand over to Steve Tassel from Microsoft, who will give you an introduction to Microsoft Lync from market scope to product positioning, and this will be the bulk of the webinar today and where there are key messages and information we would like you to take from today's webinar. Finally, I'll hand the webinar back to Andrew Doyle for some closing remarks, including next steps. Just general housekeeping, we aim to strictly stick to the 45 minutes allotted for the webinar with approximately 35 minutes of presentation, and then we will open up the floor for 10 minutes of Q&A. If you have questions during the webinar, feel free to ask them using your chat tool, and we'll endeavor to answer all the questions at the end of the webinar. If we are unable, however, to answer all of your questions, we will make sure to address them post-webinar with an email. Quickly, I'd like to test the chat function to ensure that you're all feeling comfortable using the tool today. So if everybody could please take a moment to test their chat functionality and type in the city or town that you're dialing in from today, and just to have a little bit of fun, what you had for breakfast today. So for example, I'm speaking to you from Egham, and I had juice and toast for breakfast. So I would type in Egham and juice and toast. And this way you know the functionality works and that in fact there's somebody behind this webinar speaking to you today. So go ahead and test that. Okay. I will wait for you guys to start typing in. Andrew from Newport had eggs for breakfast. That's our panelist. Good to know, Andrew. Go ahead and just waiting for you guys. Ah, Steve, you're in Reading and you also had eggs. That's good to know. Let's see. Go ahead and type in where you're calling in from and what you had for breakfast today. I have good evening. Seems to work quite well. Manchester and cornflakes, Jamie. That's great. Manchester and a flapjack, Tristan. Milan and only a coffee. We have Walsden, toast, marmalade, and coffee. Stevenage, 3 cups of coffee. That is Mark Ritchie. That's a lot of coffee. So we have people, Copenhagen and Kellogg's. That's Marcus. Toulouse, coffee and a healthy cigarette. That's Isabel. Vienna, sausages, Holger. Okay, well that's great. So we all know how this chat functionality works. So please feel free to use it during the webinar, and we're happy post-webinar we'll ask you for questions. So the functionality will work the same way. Go ahead and type in your questions at any time during the webinar. I'm going to now hand over to Andrew Doyle.
Good morning, everybody in the UK. I think actually good afternoon for those of you outside of the UK. First, I'd like to thank you for joining us for this webinar. My objective over the next 10 minutes is simply to reiterate the huge opportunity for the headset market that arises from the trend towards unified communications and collaboration, and simply how we are perfectly poised as Jabra to support you, our partners, in capturing that opportunity. This slide simply illustrates the growth potential in the headset market, which we estimate will be worth nearly 1.35 billion by 2014. And during this webinar, this next 10 minutes, I hope I can illustrate quite clearly why we see the connection between unified communications growth and why that will impact on the market for headsets. This next slide is a snapshot of Gartner's scenarios for UC adoption. The reality is, for many of you, you've heard vendors such as ourselves talk about unified communications for many years. What we think is that we're really now believing to seeing the impacts of unified communications in the market, and this chart from Gartner gives a clear indication that in 2011 to 2014 the steps are now beginning to happen, and there is a clear deployment of unified communications. During Q1 this year, we have deployed headsets to organizations who are prepared to do an actual rip and replacement of existing PBX for soft phone applications, and we are working on a number of projects with multinational corporations who will also deploy soft phone applications globally during 2011 into 2012 with a view of not replacing existing voice platforms as they fall down. So we're really seeing the move from proof of concept to actual adoption of the technology. So I hope the slide is moving as quickly as I would like. Thank you. I think one of the main catalysts for headset use is the trend towards mobility, and more users, we believe, will utilize the desktop as a voice communication tool. The reason to show you this slide is that, in our opinion, and I'm sure the opinion of many of you, Microsoft own the desktop. Gartner repeatedly recognized that Microsoft are the leaders in unified communications, and in turn what Microsoft have been very quick to realize that to succeed in voice, they must have device partners who can ensure that their users obtain the voice quality they expect from the corporate world without the use of a traditional handset. Jabra's partnership with Microsoft dates back to 2006. We've continually developed our portfolio in close conjunction with Microsoft, to the point that by 2011 we have 16 optimized devices in the portfolio, one of the most complete product portfolios from any vendor aligned to Microsoft as it is today. But why does optimization matter? Well, optimized devices means more than simply compatibility. It is integration. Our products are integrated into the software application, which ensures the users get the most superior experience from the total solution, such as wideband sound, giving it a premium call quality. The integration of plug and play simplifies installation and giving those remote call control functions. And very importantly, for those of you like me who work from home with small children, the mute function as a clear benefit to be able to mute yourself on that conference call at every opportune moment. But why 16 devices and a growing portfolio? I know many of you, many of our partners have a desire to consolidate the range. We think what's important is that to truly realize the benefits of UC strategy, an organization needs to use voice devices that suit their needs. In the most obvious example, the headset that suits the office-based worker is not the headset that suits the road warrior, the sales guy out on the road. They have clearly different requirements from a voice application and need a device to support their different needs. Therefore, Jabra, we have products that suit every user need in an organization, and in turn you, our partners, can support that need in the fulfillment of what is quite a diverse requirement from your customers. But why use a Jabra headset? And why use a headset over an IP handset, for example? In the second half of 2010 in the UK, we commissioned an independent study to compare headsets to handsets when connected to a software application. We witnessed a clear improvement from that case study of increased productivity, a reduction of costs, and actually an improvement in overall employee satisfaction. Interesting from a productivity perspective, users witnessed that they actually saved up to 6 minutes per call. In fact, 95% of users found that it was much easier to switch between UC functions such as IM, shared desktop, in comparison to using a handset. So the benefits were quite clear that from using a headset than a traditional handset. At this point, I'd just like to remind us all of why headsets are in growth and the opportunity, and why headsets really matter in the UC world. Softphone growth is what drives our opportunity, and the reality is that PCs today are not capable to give good voice quality. They don't have the high enough quality input and output for voice. Low quality PC headsets that we see on the market are not designed to deliver all-day wearing comfort and a strong enough audio quality that corporate users expect from their voice telephony. And obviously the elements around ergonomics, hands-free working, and the trend towards mobility, all these factors in the UC environment drive the opportunity for contact center and office headsets. At this point, that's it from me. I wanted to hopefully whet your appetite and give you the opportunity to reconsider the focus that you can put towards the category. But now I'll hand back to Laurie, who's going to run the next poll.
Thank you for that, Andrew. At this point, I'd like to go ahead and launch a poll out to you guys that you should now be seeing on your screen. And the poll is effectively to find out if you're actively engaged on any conferencing or voice opportunities today. So go ahead and tick on your screen, yes, no, or if it doesn't apply to you, not applicable. And let us know if you are actively engaged on any conferencing or voice opportunities today. So once again, you can go ahead and just tap right on your screen to answer that, and I will give it another couple seconds here for people to do that, and then I'll close the poll. So yes, go ahead. I see that everyone's responding here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll now and share the results here with you. So as you can see from the results of this poll, lots of you from our partner community are currently actively engaged in conferencing and voice opportunities, and that just lends to Andrew's slide earlier showing that the opportunity, now we're starting to see people starting to engage in the UC space and actively pursue unified communications, and obviously that is filtering and transcending down to you, our partner community, where you're starting to see the opportunities come to fruition. So that is really interesting. Thank you for doing that, and I will go ahead and go back, and at this point what I will do is hand the slides over to Steve Tassel from Microsoft, and Steve will go ahead and take you through the Microsoft piece.
Thanks, Laurie. Firstly, just checking you can hear me okay.
Yep, all is okay.
Brilliant. Great, okay. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. So as Laurie said, my name is Steve Tassel. I work for Microsoft and I'm the UC product manager here in the UK. What I'm planning to do in the next 20 minutes or so is just walk you through a kind of a context setting around, what is Lync, what do we see as the opportunity for us and for partners, and obviously, feel free to ask questions as we go along. So I guess the first thing I'd say, from a partner perspective, there's lots of different types of partners that we work with around the unified communication space, be they hardware vendors such as Jabra, be they services partners, or software vendors that are building their own applications that work with our platform. So there's a real myriad of different roles of partner that get involved in supporting a UC solution. And unlike traditional telephony, we don't see the kind of the turf wars and the kind of price battles that you get as much in traditional telephony terms. Our channel, if you're used to working with Microsoft, you'll know is a lot more open, a lot more collaborative. So I guess what I'm saying here is that, if you're coming from traditional telephony and you're thinking, well, this Microsoft world looks interesting, kind of getting questions from customers about it, I feel like I should learn more about this area. What we're saying to partners really is, if you're not used to selling services today in a Microsoft world, why not partner with a partner that is? So you can lend your voice expertise, but be able to offer a complete solution for a customer where you can do not just the voice piece, but also kind of the extended Microsoft platform. But we'll look at the opportunity around that in a bit more detail in a second. Okay, I'm now going to see if this technology works. Laurie, I'm not sure I'm a presenter, am I? I can't seem to advance the slides.
Yes, I just advanced it for you. You should have mouse control.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I don't think I do, but anyway, we might just have to rely on you doing that's fine. Okay, so first things first. It's important to see our investments in Lync specifically and in unified communications as part of the broader context around what we term our information worker platform. So I'm going to throw out a few product names here, things like Exchange, SharePoint, Office. As Andrew alluded to earlier, most people use Office in their day-to-day working lives. So people are familiar with that user interface. So we're seeing a lot of interest in people looking at communications being channeled through a kind of a Windows-based environment, because that's something they're very familiar with. Adding presence and communication through the Office application suite, for example, seems like a very natural thing to do for a lot of customers. So there's a lot of interest around that. But it's important to think, well, we're not just giving them telephony for the sake of it or communications for the sake of it. What do people naturally want to do when they're communicating? Well, typically they're working on reports together, they're looking at management information data, business intelligence data. Maybe they want to do some kind of workflow around maybe a simple thing like an expenses claim. Maybe that people in HR, in operations to work together collaboratively to be able to sign some piece of work off. So in our everyday lives, there are examples we can all probably think of where having real-time communications baked into the Office applications that we use regularly, like Excel and Word and Outlook, would make a real benefit to us. And that's certainly, in a nutshell, our proposition. It's baking Lync as a platform into those products. That's not to say that every customer has to have the latest and greatest Office and the latest and greatest Windows to be able to get the benefit from that. But clearly there's a tighter integration with the later versions of the technology. So that's one aspect. The other way to look at this is, the world of software provisioning is changing, and it's changing very fast. Long gone on the days where customers are having to stand up data center environments on their own and rely on maybe expensive outsourced contracts to deliver a large piece of their infrastructure for them. In swathes now, customers are looking to migrate their core infrastructure into a cloud environment, whether it's us or another vendor. This is probably the top consideration for most customers right now, is when are they going to move to the cloud? Why are we still maintaining and managing our Windows, our Exchange infrastructure when we can pay someone a subscription to run it for us and not worry anymore about that overhead? So that's driving down the cost of provisioning IT. It's good for the customer because it means that they can then look at saving money or spending money on other more of a priority projects than just keeping the lights on. But it's also presenting an opportunity for us in the IT world, because it moves the arguments away from expensive upgrades to, well, we just get the latest and greatest software anyway. Tell us what it does. Tell us how it can impact our business. So it's a much more positive business value conversation than previous conversations. So this offer of being able to say, well, Mr. Customer, you can put that service in the cloud, or you can run it on-premise, or a combination of the two, just gives the customer more options there. And so we talk about the cloud on their terms. They decide how they want to consume technology. Okay, can you advance it on, please? Great. So that's great, but what problem are we trying to solve here? What is it that customers can't do today that UC or Microsoft's value proposition can help with? Well, I think we can all recognise the changes that are occurring in terms of what's happening in the workforce. More people want to work more flexibly, either different working hours or from different locations. And the fact that we're having this meeting virtually, and we're all in different locations, even the presenters aren't even in the same location, it's just testament to how things have changed and this acceptability to conduct more and more business in a virtualized way, in an online environment. It's great on one level because obviously there's efficiencies there. We can be wherever we are, working from home or in our office, and really not impact too much on our day. But then, of course, there is a physicality of not having that direct contact that we sometimes lose. But I think on the balance, generally people are very comfortable with this concept and with the benefits that that's now giving. The challenge, though, is having technology that will comfortably underpin that flexible working, that you can be working from home, you can be in a hotel, you can be on a train, anywhere where you can get connectivity and still be connected as if you were in the office. That's the challenge, and that's what IT needs to do for a company. So traditionally, we talked about UC for years. The term is not new. What's new is the approach that we're bringing. It's software powered. It's not driven by hardware. So some of the constraints of a traditional telephony solution aren't there in the same way with rolling out software with Lync. Now you could say, well, yes, but from a partner perspective, that changes my cost of sale. It also changes my rebate model. But without wanting to get into too much detail on that today, fundamentally we feel that by going with a software approach and the opportunity that there is to open up more discussions and more opportunities with customers far outweighs kind of a traditional hardware sale that would traditionally brought kind of margin with that. So we're confident that we can compete effectively when you're considering what telephony solutions to recommend to customers. We think we can compete effectively with ensuring that your share of the wallet is still maintained by recommending a software-powered and specifically a Microsoft solution. So fundamentally, we had this trouble with technology not really integrating. Then, of course, a few years ago, along came the iPhone, and very quickly that's displaced BlackBerry as kind of the #1 preferred device for businesses. Now, that was never intended to be the case, but the reality is it's there. And why is it there? Because of the applications. The applications being able to access email, being able to be connected whilst you're on the move on your phone. That's the key thing. That's only going to become more important going forward. So the ability to be able to put more applications, more communications applications on a device, be it an iPhone, be it BlackBerry, be it a Windows Phone, doesn't matter, is the key tenet here. We need to be able to support that. Okay, could you advance the slide, please? So, enter stage left, Microsoft. We've, may surprise you or not, as the case may be, we've actually been in the communications market for the last 8 years. We've had 4 versions now of our communications platform, Lync being the latest iteration of that. But in 2007, when we launched OCS, Bill Gates was quoted as saying that he felt that the impact of software on the communications market, it was going to bring sweeping changes. And actually now, if you look at the leading players, you look at ourselves, you look at Cisco and Avaya, we're all talking about being software-led. There is a significant investment from each of those companies into the applications that underpin communications, and not just providing the hardware anymore. I've even heard Avaya talk about being a software company, not a hardware company. So things are definitely changing in the traditional telephony market as well, and it's because people recognize that if you can own the applications which sit on people's desktops, on people's phones, then you own the right to stream voice, to push down collaboration applications, productivity applications as well. So it's broader than just voice. Voice is just an element of what the IT vendors have realized needs to hang together as a broad platform to compete in this space. Hopefully this is again reflected by what you're hearing from customers as well. They don't just want to look at replacing an old telephony system, they want to look at how that integrates with their desktop environment as well. They don't just want to replace telephony with telephony anymore. Okay, can you advance the slide? So what is Lync? What does it do? In essence, you can boil it down to 3 areas. Again, apologies if you're familiar with Lync or with OCS already, but in essence, first thing it does is messaging and presence. So and for a lot of customers, just that real-time nature of being able to see when people are available, be able to contact them straight away, not having to dive into email every time, or pick up a phone and speak to someone every time. There's a lot of value in just that piece. But then moving on, the second workload is more around the audio aspect, so being able to do conference calls and web conferencing. So much like we're doing today with the GoTo webinar, Lync has the same capability, so we can desktop share, we can present, broadcast to one-to-many, or have a very collaborative session where we've got several people working on one document at the same time, real time. So there's a very, very rich collaboration experience by having that web conferencing capability. And from my perspective, I think it's better than sitting in a room round the table with a bunch of people when you're trying to work on a project together. Because what tends to happen in that situation is you get one person kind of driving the meeting, another person taking notes, and then everyone else contributing. That's not really true collaboration. It's what we've grown up to know as collaboration. But real collaboration is where you're actually all inputting to a concept, a project at the same time, and that's what Lync allows you to do. The last area here is around the telephony piece. So that's effectively what we know and love as traditional telephone infrastructure. You can see in the picture there an array of devices, and I think at this point it's key to say Lync is just part of the solution, as I mentioned right at the beginning. To deliver a Lync solution, a telephone solution, you need a rich selection of hardware as well. You can see that the likes of Polycom and the Jabra devices, headset devices there as well. And that's really important, because people's first experience of Lync will largely be based on the hardware that they're and the headsets that they're using. If it's a poor choice in headsets, a cheap headset's a PC headset, as Andrew was saying earlier, that's going to give a poor experience on audio quality. People will assume, possibly, that part of the issue there is the Lync environment, and obviously we're as keen as Jabra to point out that quite often if you buy cheaply, you end up buying twice, because you have to replace those headsets very soon after the kind of life cycle is much shorter. So it's really important to get the right devices, profile your users, and select the right devices first time. So across the array there's kind of 3 workloads. You can see that just on the Lync side, this is not really looking at kind of how this fits in with Office and SharePoint and the like. Just on the Lync side, there's a whole communications platform that we can offer there. You layer in things like SharePoint as well, and that allows you to do kind of the more document-centric project management, and obviously with Office, the kind of creation side, of content creation side of things as well. So hopefully you can appreciate we kind of have formal collaboration, ad hoc collaboration, we've got email in there as well, so we've pretty much got covered all the different aspects, different ways that a customer might want to communicate, collaborate, discussion forums, wikis, blogs. It doesn't really matter. We've got a platform that can deliver that, but at the center of this is Lync, absolutely at the center of this. Okay, next slide please. So, I guess it all sounds fantastic, or it does to me at least. Why are customers interested in it? Why are they talking to us at all? I have to say, I mean, before I go on to this, I've been at Microsoft for 14 years now. I've worked in a number of different areas, but mainly around some of our key knowledge worker products like SharePoint in the past. That was generally considered a very successful technology, but I've never seen as much interest prior to its launch of a technology as I have with Lync. We've had a number of customers who were working on early adoption before it was released last November, and a number actually deploying in production pre-release code, and I've never seen that before. So such is the confidence in the technology, but also such is the belief that it will save them money, because that's really what's driving this. No one's implementing Lync for the sake of it. They're doing it because they know that it will save their company money. And that's, as the slide suggests, through converged communications, it's removing some of the traditional telephony costs, maintenance contracts, and billing lines. Now, you might be having alarm bells going off in your head thinking, well, hang on a minute, that's my bread and butter business. But again, think of it as customers are thinking about how they can save money anyway, so they're kind of the train's left the station in that respect. But it's transferring where you would have traditionally made money into the run rate business of implementing Lync and associated services around Lync. That's where you can stand to make good margin on a Lync project. It's not just Lync in isolation, it's all the other technologies that are associated with Lync as well. It's developing applications that run on top of Lync. There's a number of different ways it can go, different to traditional telephony, I grant you that, but this is a young market, it's very immature. It's now is the time to kind of invest in developing a Lync business to take a march on the market. The second point, adopt quickly, because it's a software at the end of the day. IT know and love software. They've been deploying Windows servers, SQL servers since the year dot. So giving them another piece of software, which in essence that's all Lync really is, they know what to do with it. They know how to patch manage it. They know how to deploy it. They know how to image it on a machine. It's much more straightforward than necessarily rolling out a traditional telephony upgrade. Yes, you've got consideration for endpoint devices and hardware, but that's much more straightforward than having to rewire phone networks and plug in phone points. And also as well from a user perspective, I mean, we hear countless times how easy it is to get up to speed with Lync. I mean, the interface is very user friendly. If you've used Hotmail, Yahoo, Google Mail, you'll be Google Talk, you'll be very familiar with how to use messaging and chat, and then it's one click and you're on a call, and another click and you're on a video, and another click you're desktop sharing. So within half an hour, most users are pretty proficient. So that helps get over the barrier of, well, you're taking away my phone. Potentially you're not replacing it with a phone, you're replacing it with a headset. People will soon get the pros far outweigh the cons in that respect. Okay, next slide please. Okay, so this is kind of really tying into the message that I started off on, which was it's about giving customers choice, choice of what platform they want to use, choice of how they want that software delivered. So traditionally, yes, that would have been a PC. We also support Macs, so from that perspective, we don't really care what device customers have that they want to run Lync on. So that would be a traditional, maybe an office worker that would work with the traditional client. But of course, again, to Andrew's point, there's a lot of mobile workers or people that might spend some time in the office that then want to go out on the road, and they still want to be connected, they want to be online, they want to be able to join conferences, etc. So that's where the mobile platform comes in. And again, we support multiple platforms, BlackBerry, iPhone, Android, obviously Windows Phone as well. So in essence, from a device standpoint and a communication standpoint, we don't really care what device is in place. We'll support it in terms of rolling out the Lync application on that device. And the last area is around the web. And really what this is saying is, you don't even have to have a PC. You don't have to walk around with a PC on you. You can just be at an internet terminal somewhere and log on to Outlook Web Access, get your email, your inbox in the normal way, and you've got presence baked into Outlook Web Access now, so people can see that you're online. You can start chatting just as if you were sitting at a rich client with Outlook running. So the experience is the same across all these different platforms, and regardless of what browser you're running in, what mobile phone platform you're using, what PC or Mac you're using. So hopefully you get a sense from that we're not constrained any longer by the it has to run on a Windows environment. It doesn't necessarily. We really do mean UC when we say UC. Next slide. Okay, yeah, that's it. Perfect. So I just thought I'd just close on some customer examples. I mentioned earlier that we launched Lync earlier in the late end of last year, November. These are quotes from customers that were part of our early adoption program that ran before November. You can see just from some of the quotes the impact Lync is having on the business in terms of either cost savings, time to deliver the project. So the ROI is usually very good. It's usually less than 6 months. And again, how many customers are you talking to at the moment where a project that delivered in less than 6 months would be very appealing, and the sort of cost savings that you're looking at depending on the business could be 10, 20, 30%. So the numbers look very good, and they are very good. It's the reality, I guess, is what we're saying here. We've got some great customer quotes and some great customers that were involved in the launch with us and are continuing to deploy Lync going forward. You see here, actually there was a quote from one of our other customers talking about the integration. They really liked how Lync integrated into the Office applications and SharePoint applications as well. So where you've got customers that have got those investments, Lync is a really, in some ways, straightforward sell to them, because they've got the kind of collaboration bit, but they perhaps don't have the real-time communication piece, which really just makes investments in SharePoint come to life. Okay, next slide, please. I'm not going to dwell too long on this. You'll get the slides anyway. But in essence, you see on the left-hand side here the Gartner quadrant. I mean, if you're familiar with these, or if you're not familiar with these, I should say, Gartner tend to publish on certain industries their kind of view on the key vendors in the market. Generally speaking, if you're a vendor playing in any of the markets they review, you want to be in the top right-hand quadrant because that suggests that you're visionary, but so what you're suggesting is innovative, and also your ability to deliver on what you're saying is high as well. As you can see, top right quadrant, key players, Microsoft, Cisco, and Avaya. No surprises there. Certainly from our perspective, this kind of cements, as I said, what has been an 8-year investment in this marketplace. We haven't just suddenly appeared there. We've been in the right quadrant for a number of years now. And Lync, this is actually done before Lync even came out, so we're expecting another update this summer, which hopefully will put us even further to the right. Again, I'm not really going to dwell on the quotes that you see there, but in essence, analysts are very positive about Lync in the marketplace. Okay, next slide. Okay, so last slide here, just showing you some of the breadth of customers that are deploying Lync now or have deployed Lync already. Some of them you'll have seen from the previous slide that I showed, but you can see BMW on there, Shell are on there, Boeing. Some big names. AstraZeneca is another one of our customers that have literally just signed a deal with us earlier in the year. So we've got some big customers that are looking to replace their telephony environment, traditional telephony environment, with Lync to run that environment. So again, confidence in its ability to do that is very, very high. Okay, that was it for me. I didn't have any more kind of specifics to go through there, but I've no doubt there'll be some questions after the next poll. Laurie.
Thank you very much, Steve. What I'd like to do now is take another poll, and I will go ahead and launch that poll now. What I would like to understand is if you've seen an increase in voice projects in the past 12 months. So if you have been working on voice projects, have those you seen an uptake, more of an uptake in the past 12 months than you did prior to that? So go ahead and tick on your screen just as you did previously. And I'll go ahead and monitor those answers as they're coming in, and I will post that poll as soon as I see that most of you have ticked that box. So once again, have you seen an increase in voice projects in the past 12 months? So I'm going to wait another couple seconds here, and I will go ahead and close that poll now and share the results with you. So once again, this is in line with the poll that we did earlier. Obviously, based on what now Steve and Andrew has talked about to us, there's a clear increase in partners seeing projects that where customers are deploying, voice projects. So obviously, from Jabra's standpoint, that shows a clear opportunity for pushing headsets down to those projects. So I'm going to thank you for that. What I'm going to do now is hand over to Andrew Doyle for some final closing thoughts for you. So Andrew, over to you.
Thank you, Laurie, and thank you, Steve. Conscious of time, so I will just give you just a few words just to illustrate how we can help you, our partners, in this opportunity. There are 3 key stages of the UC sales process: investigation of the technology available, the running of pilots and proof of concepts, and finally the deployment. And at each stage we can support you to in turn support your customers. For example, from the onset we can provide you your customers with demonstration devices so they're able to evaluate the technology available. I think what's interesting in this market is that many of the decision makers around a UC deployment do not have a lot of experience around the different audio devices on the market. So they're really keen to evaluate the products that are available, and we can actually support that. We also then offer a number of different programs, but including what we call the JUMP program in the UK, that will support users through the pilot process. JUMP puts the emphasis on user profiling, and it helps those end users determine which products suit which user group within their organization. And of course, at the deployment stage, we can create a tailored program or a tailored proposal that will suit the budget and the requirements of that user, and also ensure they have the aftermarket support that they need. So, final point, I think the market opportunity is clear. I think that was clearly demonstrated of why the market opportunity is there by Steve today. The opportunity is now, and I think that is very much the key message to take away. It's not in the future, it's happening right now, and we really look forward to working with all of you in seizing that opportunity together. So thank you for your time today. I'll hand back to Laurie for some closing comments.
Well, thank you for that, Andrew, and I just would like to thank both yourself and Steve for your time today, and just let you know that if you have any inquiries about what we've discussed on the webinar today, go ahead and send an email to ukpartner@jabra.com, and of course we'll endeavor to address those inquiries as soon as possible. And if you would like further information about Jabra solutions from Microsoft, I just would like to remind you that you can visit jabra.com/Microsoft for any relative information. So at this time, what I'd like to do is open up the floor to any questions that you may have. Just as you did earlier, go ahead and type those questions into the chat box on your screen at any time, and as they pop up, I will go ahead and address them to the relative speakers. So alternatively, if you feel like it, you can raise your hand and I'll take the question that way. But go ahead and type any questions you may have now into the chat box, and I'll just give you a few moments to do that. Okay, I'm just going to give you a few more moments here. A very quiet crowd today across EMEA. If anyone has any questions for either Steve regarding Microsoft or Lync, or for myself or Andrew regarding Jabra, go ahead and type those in now. Okay, just so all of you know, we will be sending out a recorded version of this webinar. Post-webinar, you'll see a communication tomorrow with a link to the recorded version of the webinar. So I'm seeing a few questions about that. So yes, that will also be posted on the UK PartnerNet I will distribute it regionally to your regional channel marketing managers, so if they would like to post that to your local partner net, they can do that as well. Both the slide deck and the recorded version of this webinar will be available. Okay. I have a question here. This is for you, Steve. How is Lync integrated with a mobile phone? Is that through an application? And that is from Peter Rowley.
Yes. So in essence, what we've done with Lync is work with each of the device platforms to ensure that there is a Lync application that will work on each platform. It's fair to say they're all at different stages of development. Some are imminent. Our own is due out later this year for the Windows Phone. But in essence, yes, what it will do at the very least is IM and presence. But obviously in the future what we're hoping to add into that is conferencing as well, so that you can join a conference from your phone too, just by clicking to join, much as you would with the rich client today. But yes, so it's an application in each case.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. I have another question here from Mark Ritchie, who would like to know if there's a minimum PC spec for good voice quality.
There isn't a published minimum spec for PC. There's a lot of other considerations for good voice quality. Obviously, headset being one, network being another. I mean, in terms of mainstream support, Windows XP, SP3 for the time being, but that will change. So yeah, other than kind of normal support levels in terms of what's in mainstream support in terms of operating system, and then having Lync running on that, and there's no other kind of specified requirement for that. Obviously, if you want to start doing things like video, we'd recommend a quad processor to ensure that the best sort of processing speed. But then the only other thing is networking and ensuring that you've obviously got good bandwidth there. But otherwise, no, there's no minimum spec requirements there.
Okay, thank you for that, Steve. Just bearing in mind the time, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's webinar. If anyone has any further questions or comments, as I mentioned, go ahead and send those to ukpartner@jabra.com, and we'll go ahead and address those questions for you accordingly. But once again, thank you for your time, and thank you for joining us on today's webinar, and that will conclude this webinar, and we look forward to seeing you on our next webinar. So thank you for joining us today. Bye-bye.
It was like, it actually says it's a question.
Okay. This is Lori. Oh my God. I'm glad it's over. No. No, you're fine, actually. I was worried because I typed one tick and it went out to everybody instead of just you guys. That was like a total faux pas on my behalf. So What can I do?
I think my comment would be, which I was indicating to Laurie, I think when there are EMEA people on the call, we've got to be slower. There was some of the conversation was
Oh, hold on.
What? You're not still logged in?